This video is based on an exhibition that was held in the Heritage Gallery at the Core Library Solihull between January and March 2020, featuring then and now photos of various sites in Solihull town centre. Starting in the High Street, the Laura Ashley building at number 124 housed Hull's butchers from about 1905 until 1965. The business was started by George Manavan Hull and then taken over by his youngest son Noel, who had actually been born on the premises in 1910. By 1974 it had become Hartley Carpets. Moving down the High Street, its junction with Mill Lane was widened considerably as part of the central area redevelopment of the 1960s that saw the creation of Mell Square. Joseph Harris, Dyers and Cleaners on the left occupied part of one of Solihull's oldest buildings, dating from the 15th century. The other half of the building, at the time of demolition in the early 1960s, housed Halfords, which had previously been Pegg's Cycles. The building had been for many years a public house, known variously as the Magpie, the Georgian Dragon and the Green Dragon, before being converted into shops. By 1903 it was occupied by Davis's Bakery, which also made pork pies that, according to Charles Lyons, were out of this world. Further down the High Street, the building that has housed McDonald's since 1982 was built around 1936 and named King Edward Buildings, originally housing 3 shops, with the McCafe part of the building being Solihull's original post office until 1911. Before King Edward Buildings, the site was occupied by the Great Western Mews, shown here around 1890, when it was a business run by William Ledbrook. He was the son of a baker from Warwick, and after working as a railway porter, seems to have moved to Solihull around 1880. He had a fine array of carriages and horses, which could be hired for weddings and funerals. He also handled parcels for the Great Western Railway. William Ledbrook died in Barston, aged 89, in 1930. Perhaps the closest that Solihull got to back-to-back houses was Ramsgate, which had 1 cottage facing the High Street and 14 others situated in a yard at the back. The yard also contained wash houses, water closets, coal houses and ash pits. A clearance order for demolition was made in June 1939, with residents given 6 months to vacate their homes, which were all rented from Mr. Leonard Hobday, who owned a furniture shop in the High Street. However, the Second World War delayed proceedings, and the cottages weren't actually demolished until 1957. Although the shop fronts have changed considerably in the 60 years between these photographs, most of the buildings are little changed on the upper stories. Woolworths and Boots moved from the High Street to the new Mell Square development, which was officially opened in May 1967. Solihull High Street was pedestrianised in 1994. An article in the Birmingham Post of the 25th of May 1962 described the parade of shops in Station Road as typical of modern Solihull. The canopied frontage was designed to allow for customers to window shop under cover. The first store in this new block of shops, the Midland Educational Company Limited, opened on the 26th of April 1957. The 20 shops and the 2-storey maisonettes above were built on the site of Sutton Grange, a late Victorian house which was built for Dr. Edward Sutton Page. He was the first of 3 generations of doctors in Solihull. Sutton Grange was demolished in 1956, after application was made to the Lands Tribunal in 1955 to remove 10 restrictive covenants on the site. The building in Poplar Road, that is now Yates's, was converted into a wine bar and restaurant, Bar Censor, in 1999. It was built in 1876 as the public hall and was acquired by Solihull Rural District Council in 1919. It was Solihull's council house from 1937 until the new council house was opened in 1967. Her Royal Highness Princess Margaret made a public appearance on the balcony in 1954 after presenting Solihull with its Charter of Incorporation as a borough. The white building on Warwick Road is the old Doctor's House and was home to a succession of doctors from 1761 until 1974. Also known as the Limes, it was renamed Keeney House in honour of the last doctors who lived there, Paul and Doris Keeney. This ornamental arch, pictured outside the old Doctor's House, was erected to celebrate the coronation of King George V and Queen Mary on the 22nd of June 1911. The spire of St Alfred's Church dominates this 1960s view of Mill Lane after most of the buildings on the street had been demolished to make way for Mell Square. Demolition began in 1963, and by June 1963, 46 families from the central area had been rehoused, with another 65 families awaiting rehousing. Most residents displaced by the redevelopment moved to the Bridge estate at Lode Lane. The view from Drury Lane, looking towards Warwick Road, changed dramatically with the 1960s redevelopment that saw the creation of Mell Square. The original Golden Lion pub dated from the 18th century, but was demolished in 1935 and replaced by a larger building. The building has been the Beach House since 2016, having previously been the Lazy Cow, Townhouse and Barco. The tan yard, where animal skins and hides were tanned, was established on Warwick Road, Solihull, by the late 18th century. It closed in 1867. The workshops were then converted into 9 cottages. In 1978, a new office block, number 751 Warwick Road, was built on the site. This was the British headquarters of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, often known as the Mormons, until 2018. Solihull Grammar School was founded in 1560 and moved to a new site on Warwick Road in 1882. Schoolhouse is the original building on the Warwick Road site. It was designed by J.A. Chatwin to provide accommodation for 80 day boys and 20 boarders. Solihull School became independent in 1946, and many more buildings now occupy the school campus. The Grade 2 listed Schoolhouse was refurbished in 2015 and now includes art and photography studios. The ornamental gates at the entrance to Malvern Park in New Road were completed in 1956 and were the personal gift of Councillor William E. Wright to commemorate the incorporation of Solihull as a borough in 1954. Designed by architect Philip Skelcher, the gates incorporated the armorial bearings of the municipal borough on a stone carving in the lintel. In 2012, 6 children had their designs painted onto the decorative shields on the gates to mark the Queen's Diamond Jubilee. Solihull's first police station was built in New Road in 1851 and was home to the police officer and his family, as well as having 2 cells for prisoners in custody. The lockup was extended in 1857 to provide more room for cells and an exercise yard. The police station moved to Poplar Road in 1892, and by the 1940s the old lockup had become a pair of shops. The building was restored in the early 2000s. A Crown Office, including Employment Exchange, Inland Revenue Offices, Customs and Excise Bureau and a DHSS office, opened in Park Road in October 1970. The office, now the site of Job Centre Plus, was built on the site of one of Solihull's oldest companies. This photograph shows the demolition of Willesden & Co. in the 1960s. The firm first began trading on the site in 1892 as a blacksmith and wheelwright, but developed into the manufacturer of vehicle bodies. It moved to Lode Lane in 1959 and closed in 1994, just 2 years after celebrating its centenary. The Gorge Hotel, now the Gorge Restaurant at Ramada, Solihull, is Grade 2 listed and dates from the 16th century. It was once a coaching inn, although according to local historian Charles Lynes, more coaches actually called at the Barley Mow. The hotel was frequented by the local gentry and was also apparently a popular destination for horse-drawn brakes from Birmingham on weekends. The Gorge was previously the Nag's Head from 1693 to 1715 and the Bell from 1715 to 38. The picturesque wisteria covering the front of the building was killed by a gas leak in 1905. The building was heavily restored in about 1991. The War Memorial was unveiled in 1921 and was paid for by public subscription. Additional plaques were added to commemorate those who died in the Second World War and in the Korean War. When the High Street was pedestrianised in 1994, the War Memorial was moved a short distance to enable safer viewing. Restoration of the carved panels depicting a soldier, sailor, airman and nurse was carried out in 2009. The heart of the old Solihull village, Church Hill, was the muddy or miry hill that gave the village its name, from Sol in Old English meaning muddy or miry. It was part of the medieval road from Coventry to Worcester, and together with the Warwick to Birmingham road was a major influence on the growth of the town. The Oliver Byrd Hall, seen here on the right, was opened in 1962. It was named after Captain Oliver Byrd, the son of Sir Alfred Byrd of custard powder fame and the local benefactor. Touchwood Shopping Centre opened in 2001 on the site of Solihull Civic Hall, which had been opened by Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II in 1962. The Queen visited Touchwood in 2002 as part of her Golden Jubilee tour, and the gardens between Touchwood and Homer Road were named Golden Jubilee Gardens as a result. Solihull Central Library and Arts Complex opened in 1976 on a site that was previously occupied by 2 Victorian houses. Designed by local architect Stanley Sellers, who also built several buildings in Homer Road, the styling showed Finnish influences. The building was refurbished in 2001, and Solihull Council's face-to-face customer inquiry service, Solihull Connect, opened in the foyer. The complex was renamed the Core in 2016, when several third sector agencies joined the library, the arts complex and Solihull Connect in sharing the building.